Welcome to Spotlight New England. I'm one of your co-hosts, Audrey McClelland.
And I'm Ashley Erling, and we're both fresh off a very
Busy
weekend.
weekends, yes.
Because we were saying this morning, we're both like, we're dragging a little bit.
Today, and I'm not normally like that, but today I was completely dragging.
Yeah.
Like, need way more coffee type of dragging.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I get a big cup of coffee pretty much every day.
I know that. I see you microwave that up.
Yep. I do not like cold coffee.
Yeah.
It has to be hot, but it's already down to like the bottom part.
Yeah. You're ready. You need another one.
And by this time of the day, it's normally still like half full. So.
No, it's a typical Monday.
Yeah, it is. It has Monday feel for sure. But you had it was busy, but it was exciting. It was a very exciting weekend.
Yes. So this is one of those like milestone weekends. My son Benjamin graduated from high school. So that was a big deal for us. And I always, I mean, you get this. I'm always very conscious of, he's like the middle child, like literally the complete one in the middle.
Yep.
And I don't want any, because I mean, there was a lot of parents coming, oh, you must be so used to this. And I don't want him to ever feel that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want him to know that it is just as emotional and just as special and exciting for us as it is for him.
Yeah.
And even like family and friends coming in from out of town. So,
yeah.
I feel like I'm saying to my husband last night, I feel like we went like overboard because we were really trying to make Benjamin feels so extra special, but we did. It was a great, great little weekend for us, for Benjamin. There he is walking a little stage, and it's special too. As you know, I went to high school, in Barrington High School. There we
think of that, how like that is the high school that you went to as well. Because I don't know how common that is or not common that your children end up going to the same place that you went.
I don't know how common it is anymore. I mean, I feel like a lot like my dad's friends. He's from Rhode Island.
Yeah.
He grew up in East Providence, so a lot of the townies still stay around here. But I have like one dear friend, Alexia. You've met Alexia Hajopoulos.
Yes.
Alexia and I were best friends in kindergarten, and I remember being pregnant together. We were at Chili's and we sat down. And I remember the waiter came over and he asked us what we wanted to drink. And I said, I can't drink. And she was like, I can't either. And I'm like, are you pregnant?
That is
and so
funny.
Last night, those two babies graduated from high school. So I did get a picture of the four of us together, her daughter Anna and my son Benjamin, and they've grown up together, these two. So, I mean, it is very special. It was her first graduating from high school.
Oh, okay. So now she's entering
So now
that
she's
phase.
like, she's entering that phase. So it really is. It was exciting. It was nice.
Yeah.
We had our party Saturday night. So it was
in that beautiful weather.
Well, I know. It rained until 7:30, and finally, and then the rain cleared.
Yeah.
And he just had a ton of people, his like buddies and like a lot of friends come over.
So fun.
And they stayed very late, and that was just like what they're supposed to do.
Now, when high school graduation happens, because it's been a while since I've been to a high school graduation.
Yeah.
College graduations, I kind of remember. What do they do? Does somebody speak at them and give advice, or what happens? I don't remember.
It's a little different in Barrington. So on Saturday we do something called the friendship service.
Okay.
And we've done that. I mean, I remember. I mean, in '96, they did the friendship service for me. So I don't know how long it's gone on for, but they have two students speak, and you submit essays, and then two are chosen to speak on friendship service on Saturday,
idea.
And then on Sunday they have another two speak.
Okay.
And they picked, and they always pick unbelievable speakers, and these kids just you sit there going, how are these children, not even children, but how are these like 18-year-olds writing and speaking so eloquently?
And what are they talking about their experience in high school, or like it kind of?
No, a lot of it was like just getting everybody inspired for the future,
more like looking ahead.
Yeah, I mean, everybody really did a great job at like tying it to themselves, but also to the class, and kind of like going out there. And this specific class was 308 students, and it's been the largest class, I guess, in like a decade.
Oh, wow.
So that was another theme that they kept talking about.
Yeah.
And it was just like a nice weekend. It was bittersweet, but three down.
Another one. Well, they're all going to be home soon, right? For a little bit.
Yes, tonight I will have everybody home, and I will sleep like a baby.
That's great.
So yeah, that was our weekend.
Very fun.
That was our weekend.
Fun. Well, we have a very fun show still ahead today,
Yes,
and our coffee's kicking in. We're ready.
I'm ready.
We're ready for it. One of our friends, but also an amazing author is here. So stick around because that is coming up next.
Well, this is a treat for us coming up because, we've talked about this before, but Ashley and I love to read, and we also love to just chat with authors. And this author happens to be also a friend of ours, so this is extra special. We have Julie Gerstenblatt with us this morning, and we're so excited that you're here, Julie, because you are somebody, and I'm going to even say a little bit of a personal note here as to why, this speaks volumes, I think, Ashley, about an individual. So I had written a book, like, gosh, maybe right during COVID, and I had like a little book, kind of signing at our local bookstore. Yeah. And I know you came, Ashley.
Oh,
I remember
sure
that.
did.
And I remember Julie showed up. And I remember, Julie, you saying to me, I love supporting other authors, and especially on like debut books. And when I tell you, that meant so much to me, because we knew each other, but we didn't know each other that well. And I just thought to myself, what a wonderful woman. Like, what a wonderful woman to do this and to embrace other authors and to just be there to like share in like just like a big deal for them at that moment. So we're so excited to have you with us today.
Thank you. I mean, being an author is hard. As you know, writing is isolating, and you spend most of your time, I say, like, my job is walking around my house in my pajamas, talking to the people in my head. And I'm like, so I've got to support other people who are doing that work. And I didn't even know that you were writing. And then when I learned you were doing it, like, on the pool deck while the kids were swimming for practice, that's inspirational to me.
Oh, well, it meant a lot to me, truly, that you did. And it just, Ashley, I think that goes to, we have so many like incredible women on the show.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you stop and think about the one common thread, I feel like about all the women that we've had on the show, and Julie obviously is epitome of this, it's that they support other women.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that is something that I just love about you, Julie.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that at the top.
Yeah.
Right? It's such important.
Absolutely. Well, we want to get into your book in a minute, because obviously I read it, as we all know.
Yes, we read it.
Loved it. But before we get to that, it's not something that you like really always did, writing novels. So how did you get started doing that? Because you've done many things.
Yeah, this is definitely a second career for me, although I would say it's what I wanted it to be, my first career. But I graduated from college, and my parents were like, that's not a thing, being a writer. Like, where do you go every day? Like, how do you afford an apartment? Like, where's your 401k? So, and I joke that it's their fault, but really, I too felt that way. Like, how do you,
how do you do it?
How do you do it? I wanted to do what my friends were doing, like, live in New York City and go to a job.
Yeah.
So I got a master's degree in education, and I started teaching. And then I was like, oh, I'll write novels at night. And I had 100 students, and I was grading papers constantly. And I spent my weekends like reading essays, planning the like next day's lessons. So it got farther and farther away from me the more I taught. And then I went back to grad school, and I got a second master's and a doctorate, because I just really liked school. And I was like, maybe this will bring me closer to being a writer, but it kept getting me farther away. So it wasn't until we moved to Rhode Island that I sort of stopped teaching full-time. I taught at Roger Williams just part-time, and I worked with kids on the side for college essay coaching, and I wrote, and I said, this is what I'm going to do with my time. So.
I love that. And, tell me this, because when I was reading a little bit more about you and kind of like your story that that we could only find online. That's why I love having people here, because you actually get the real story. So what kind of writing were you doing, though, before either Daughters of Nantucket came along? Because it wasn't always historical fiction.
No, it was contemporary women's fiction.
Okay.
Like funny, I wanted to write humorous story about like the everyday woman, like, who has an issue with work or her friends and, her husband or children, sort of the life I was living.
Right.
And I wrote several of those, and I had 2 agents along the way, and each time they were like, oh, these are great, they're funny, we'll get them published. And then within a month or 2 of sending them out to editors, we found nothing. And it was really just because it wasn't standing out in the market. It was like, this book was similar to others out there.
Right.
So it was my second agent who suggested I write the historical that I had sort of like jokingly just kind of pitched to her. She's like, what have you got? She's like, that book that you worked on for 2 years didn't sell. So like, what else have you got? I was like, what else have I got? I was like,
You're
my
like, that
heart,
was it. That was
my soul,
everything.
my heart. Right.
was my whole life. So I was like, well, I could write this one contemporary, or I could write this one historical. I tried the contemporary, and she was like, nope, write the historical. Wow. And I was like, oh, I was kidding. Like,
I take it back.
I read historical fiction.
Right.
I know you do too.
Yeah.
But
you love it.
I didn't think of myself as a historical writer.
Well, because you know what? It's scary even scarier, I should say, to write something like that, because even though it's fiction, there is a level of accuracy that needs to happen in a story like that. So, number one, getting it right, but number two, I would imagine there's a lot of research that you have to do, which to me, I love reading, but I don't necessarily want to do the research. That sounds very daunting. So how did you go about all of that?
Right. So I had to talk myself into it. I had to convince myself that I was capable. And it took a while. Well, first I read a book about the history of the Great Fire, which is what I ended up writing about. And that got me so energized. And I felt, well, I have this to help me. It has all of the facts of those 8 hours of the fire. So that gave me confidence because what I like to do is populate the world with characters.
Right.
So I was like, here's all the facts, and I got the characters, and I'll put them together.
Yeah.
So that was step one. But also I remembered, what did I do? I got a dissertation. I wrote my dissertation. I have a doctorate. That's research.
Right.
That's years and years of work.
Yeah,
so,
you were qualified.
She knew she could.
I hadn't thought all those years in the library and these stacks, putting Post-it notes and cross-referencing and taking research for something scholarly.
Yeah.
If I could take those skills and put them with the fun of creating the story and the characters, that actually was the perfect path for me. It just took me a while to find it.
Yeah. And then for people who aren't, I'm talking about the book like everybody knows the book because it's been out for a little bit now, right? What was the last summer or 2 summers ago?
It came out in March of 2023.
Okay. Wow. Gosh, time flies. But for those who aren't familiar with the book, tell us more about the premise of the book.
Sure. So it's called Daughters of Nantucket, and it's set around Nantucket's Great Fire of 1846 and 3 women's lives in the days leading up to and immediately following the fire. And their secrets are sort of revealed as the fire hits the town. So I say that I studied things I realized I was writing a disaster flick, sort of. So I watched Titanic, and I watched In the Heart of the Sea, and I watched The Perfect Storm, and I was like, what's fun about that kind of story is everybody going into it knows the disaster's coming.
Right.
The readers know, the viewers know in case of a movie, and the people in the scenes don't. Yeah. So you know the fire is coming from the beginning of the book, and you're watching these characters and learning about them and starting to love them and worrying about their future.
That's unbelievable. We have it up right now. Can we talk about this cover too? Because it is such a phenomenal cover. How did the whole process even coming up? Because that really sets the tone for people picking up a book many times to actually see what it looks like before they dive in. Yeah. How did the whole cover come to be?
So it started out with a completely different tactic, which was a woman facing backwards, turned towards with the big dress.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, sort of a sweeping ocean scene behind her. And there were a lot of covers like that at the time.
Okay.
And it didn't feel particular. And then it had a lighthouse, but it wasn't the right lighthouse. And then it had the Nantucket cottages that are there now. And I was like, they weren't there.
Yes.
It didn't feel right. So we talked about it for a while, and then they worked on a few iterations and then came up with this new direction, which was illustration. And it's got that whale's tail on it with the 3 women riding on the top of the tail, and then the water with the men at sea.
Beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Underneath.
It really is.
Yeah, I love it. And I hope now I have the second book is coming out a year from now, and I think the same designer will be making a sort of a matching cover for that second book.
So I love that part of the reason you wrote this one is also because you love Nantucket.
Yes.
Just
right?
gonna ask
So
this. I love this.
was that fun to kind of be researching and writing about a place that you knew you loved already?
Yeah. I think that's part of what made me feel I could take this leap. I wasn't going to write about Paris between the wars or something else that wasn't familiar to me, but I grew up going to Nantucket every summer from the late 1970s. And what's fun is you step off that ferry and it looks like it did then.
That's
you know,
amazing.
Cobblestone streets and stop signs, stop lights, and it's all very old, and the town is historic, preserved either from before the fire or just after when it was rebuilt. And so that gave me a sense of I know what this looks like, I know what this feels like, but also I love it, for the beachiness and now also for the historic heart.
And you had great success with this book, which, how do you feel about that? Were you surprised? Were you thank goodness because I worked so hard? What does that feel like? Because, I mean, that doesn't always happen like that.
Yeah, you never know. And so you kind of can't worry about that. I really did not. I just went into it feeling it took me a really long time to get published. I was a debut at 52. And I had tons of support from my writing group in Boston, and that was all that mattered to me at the moment it came out. Plus, I shouldn't say that. I did hire a publicist. I wanted it to do well.
Of course.
And I worked my butt off to kind of like make sure that I could be seen in as many different formats. And you were kind enough to put me on the show when it came out. And, I went to a lot of book talks. But there was something about the title having Nantucket in it really helped sell this to like a stranger at the airport, but also the fact that my publisher put it in airports and distributed it widely, and Barnes and Noble loved it and picked it up and put it on front tables. Like
that's huge.
Yeah, so it's a combination of like luck and skill and timing and all of that.
And how long did this one in particular take you to write? From truly, sitting down and actually putting even just note taking, but how long did it take this full process?
I say about 2 years.
Wow.
Which isn't long for historical.
Not at all.
No, I know. That sounds actually amazing.
Well, COVID helped.
Okay.
If you ask writers, you ask everybody else, COVID was not a great time in terms of productivity.
Right.
But for writers, you had to stay home and you were sitting in the chair and doing the work. And my writing group moved to online, and we were still there supporting each other. But suddenly I didn't have the commute to Boston. I could just do it from home. And I was serious about that work. So the research, I probably researched for about 4 months before I even wrote a work.
Okay.
Wow.
Then 2 years of writing. And then it takes 1.5 years from when you sell the book to when it gets published.
That's incredible.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And so you are working. So you are working on book 2.
Oh, book 2 is done.
It's done.
I remember
done,
talking
baby.
to you about this last summer because you were writing at the time. So now we're good.
Yeah.
We're written.
We're written, and it's with my editor, and I will get edits at the end of the month.
Okay.
And then I have a month to turn them around, and then that book goes into production, and it comes out next June.
Oh my God.
Now you're a mother. You have 2 wonderful children, but like these are your children too. These babies. What does it feel like, now to have kind of like, well, I know you've written other books in the past, but to have these 2 kind of twins, right? You have 1 and 2.
Yeah.
But how does it feel like to have them coming out? Like, does it just feel? Is it unbelievable this time around? Like you said, you put a lot of work into wanting this one to do well. Yeah. You were older, you're a little bit more wiser. Yeah. You know enough now. You know what? Like we were talking today about second acts in life on the road show. How does it feel right now? Have you taken in any of that piece of it? Like, wow, this is what I've done.
Yeah, I spent 2 weeks on Nantucket in September. I got a residency through the Nantucket Island School of Design and the Arts, and so I got to write for 2 weeks in September.
Awesome.
And during that time, my agent was trying to sell this second book while I was working on it, and so we sent in the first 100 pages and an outline of the whole. And she called me while I was on the island. She's like, how about a 2-book deal? So for books 2 and 3. And I was like, really? And I felt like I really did feel like this is the career now. This is what I do now.
Yeah.
The kids are out of the house. I have these book babies and I can nourish them and grow. So I took a moment there. I was with my husband. He got to come with me for the 2 weeks. And we went out for dinner, and I got a glass of champagne and
well deserved.
Toasted this chapter of my life. So.
Yeah, like I'm a writer.
Yeah. I'm a writer now.
Yeah.
Like now I'm working on book 3.
Right, absolutely.
In your favorite place.
Yeah.
Like what a moment that must have been.
It was really, really special. Like we were talking back and forth, and she would call me, and I'd go sit on a bench outside the Athenaeum, which is the setting for part of book 1, as Mariah Mitchell is trying to get the books out of the library before it, burns to the ground. Yeah. And so I'm like, oh yeah, let's do that. Let's, negotiate.
I love it.
And it was special.
Oh, that's so love cool. that. And and this is Spotlight New England. So and you are like the Nantucket girl. Yeah. Before we let you go, what are some places that someone who's never been to Nantucket, maybe to eat or like a shop to visit that you absolutely love, like are must-haves once you get there?
I would say I love Crew for a lobster roll. It is fancy. It's going to be the most expensive lobster roll you've ever eaten.
And worth every penny.
With a glass of rosé on the water.
You cannot beat it.
I love it.
Cannot beat it. I also really love Bar Yoshi, which is just on the wharf as well. I like a day at Jetty's or like a late afternoon at Jetty's Beach, and then go to Sandbar for drinks and dinner and live music right with your feet in the sand. Like I am like in my bathing suit put my name in. They say it's an hour wait. I go back down to the beach, watch the sunset, read a book, and then come up for dinner.
That's perfect. I need to start writing so I can get a residency on Nantucket to write. Amazing. That sounds like a dream.
Great. I get to go back again this year in July for a week.
Oh, so
I love that.
Oh. So exciting.
Yeah,
Julie, it's been great having you. Thank you so much for stopping by and chatting with us.
It's great to see you. Thanks for having me.
I can't wait for the next one.
We'll have to have you back when the next one is officially out into the world.
I love that.
And stick around because we have more for you too at Spotlight New England.
Well, welcome back to Spotlight New England. One of the things we love here on this show, on the road show, everywhere is food. We love food. We love eating. So we had recently Alexia from You Had Me at Kitchenin. And I said, you know what, Alexia, I want to talk to you for Spotlight New England. Tell me about like an easy summer recipe that we can do for our viewers. So you know her.
I haven't even seen this yet.
She
I
was
wanted
ready.
To be surprised with everybody else.
She was ready to go, of course.
She's always on. She's always on.
We love her so much. So take a look at what she had.
Guess what? The first thing I'm going to teach you, one of the best tips is always salt your water. Because why? Mama always said salt your water, make it taste like the sea. Check that out. Okay, so I'm using today a beautiful passata sauce. This is so smooth and silky. It's one of my favorites for this type of sauce. And of course, we're gonna go with the Calabrian chili oil. Look at that, how beautiful that is. We're going with the Pecorino Romano, my favorite, the basil, the Vazenagol, the fresh minced garlic. Well, today I chopped it, sliced it nice and thin, like Paulie from Goodfellas. Look at that. The stinking rose. We're going with the burrata. This is one of my favorite cheeses. Creamy, delicious. When you break it open on a pasta dish, it is exquisite. And, of course, the extra virgin olive oil. I hope you make it. Check it out.
She doesn't have her own show yet. I mean, this woman is hilarious.
Well, first of all, that really is an easy recipe.
It is
fresh, simple ingredients, and it is going to taste amazing. So, like, I feel like you don't even need to write that down. You could have just watched that. It was a minute long.
Yes.
You'd be like, okay, I have that. All right, maybe I need to stop on the way home and grab a burrata and make that. But that is an easy meal, but it is going to taste fantastic.
Yes.
Simple, easy. But secondly, the energy that woman has.
I don't know how she does it. She's always like that, and she's always so much fun. And she just, you know what she loves? Her love language is food.
Yeah.
She loves to cook delicious, good food. And like she's offered to come over. I remember one time I was like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. Do you want me to come cook for the kids?
Did she?
I said, no, but I appreciate because she's just like giving like that. I know I should have. Yes. I should have. But that's her thing. She goes, that's Italian.
Yeah.
She always says, that's Italian. She is just awesome. But that is delicious.
Yeah.
That is delicious.
Yeah. I just always admire her energy because it's really hard to be on like that all the time. And every time we talk to her, she comes in here. She's so excited. She goes around. She meets everyone. She introduces herself. You feel like she's one of those people you meet, and by 2 minutes later, you're family with her. You
you're
know
hugging.
her,
Yes.
hugging. Like,
Yes.
I want to come over for a dinner party. But I love that that's like a perfect go-to summer dish.
That is a perfect go-to.
Do you have like a go-to summer dish in your house? Or does Matt?
I was going to say, I don't
Matt
cook.
Matt does a lot of the cooking.
But he's like Alexia. That's his love language is cooking. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I love like an easy salad.
Yeah.
I'm like a salad girl.
Yeah, I am too.
But and I have to say too, Alexia, even on and off camera, that's who she is.
Oh, 100%.
That is not, that is not at all an act. That is that is her. That is
You think it is, but it's not.
No, she's amazing.
And salt your pasta water. If you didn't learn anything
what did
from
she
that
say?
video,
Mama said
she says you have to salt it so it tastes like the sea.
That's right.
So AKA put a lot of salt in
Lots
your
of
pasta
salt.
water, and then obviously you have to use the water in the sauce, just in case you didn't know that. So
there you go.
There's your little cooking tip for today. Thank you for joining us on Spotlight New England, and we'll see you next time.